If you've ever watched a video about the best cashback card, you've probably been scammed. Not by a bank, but actually by the internet. Because the best cashback card is usually just a list of the highest percentages with zero context. And that's how people end up with a 5% card that earns like $40 a year. Today, we're doing this the right way. I'm ranking the best cashback cards in Canada by the way you actually spend money. So grocery, gas, subscriptions, Costco, online shopping, travel, and whether you're the person to really actually optimize for what you want to do, or if you're going to forget after week 2. And I'm also going to tell you the quiet stuff nobody really mentions, like caps, category traps, some of the fee math that goes into this, and which cards look insane but are actually just really mid. Before we talk about any specific card, you need to understand one thing. Cashback cards are not really designed to reward you, they're more designed to predict you. Banks already know how people are going to spend. Grocery, gas, subscriptions, Costco, Amazon, the standard stuff. So when you see a card advertising 4 or 5% cash back, that's not just generosity by the bank, it's more just a trap built around averages. Here's how it really works. There's a lot of cashback cards out there, but all of them fall into one of 2 categories: flat rate cards and category-based cards. Flat rate cards are pretty boring by design. You get the same cashback everywhere, there's no caps and no thinking. Banks expect you to spend more overall because they might seem more painless. Category cards are the complete opposite. They give you super high cash back in very specific areas, like 5% back on groceries, and then cap it really hard so the bank controls how much they actually end up paying out. This is the part that nobody really explains. A 5% cashback card with a $20,000 annual cap doesn't earn 5% forever. It earns 5% for that first chunk of spending, and then quietly drops down to 1% or sometimes even worse. So the question isn't really which card has the highest percentage. The real questions are, how predictable is your spending? Will you stay under the cap? And are you actually going to track this or really forget after the first month? If you're consistent and disciplined, category cards usually win. But if you're inconsistent, flat rate cards almost always beat people in practice, even when they may look worse on paper. That's why some people swear a certain card is amazing, and other people have the exact same card and barely earn anything. I think this is much better explained with an example. Let's say 2 people both spend $2,500 a month. Person A uses a flat 2% card, which has no thinking, no tracking, just that 2% back. They'll earn about $600 a year. On the other hand, person B uses a 5% groceries and 3% gas card. This sounds better, right? Except they absolutely blow past that grocery cap by June, and it drops down to 1%. And then the other half of their spending ends up in the other category, which just earns, again, 1% back. They finish the year ending basically the same or perhaps even less than person A. So on paper, before starting this experiment, person B may actually win. But in real life, person A usually does. And I see this in some of my spending as well. More recently, as perhaps work gets more busy, life gets more busy, I'm shifting my priorities to really managing like, oh, I've hit the grocery cap on this card, the monthly cap on this card for another category, and I end up just using a flat 2% card because then I'll just earn the exact same thing back. The amount of effort it may take to see if I've hit the cap or not, or just keep everything in my mind, is just a little bit too much, and I think I've definitely overspent on certain cards, overspending the cap, and I earn less than the advertised 5% or 4% elevated cashback rate. So it's not just for people who have no consistency whatsoever and can't manage their money for anything. It's more of a general thing seen a bit across the board, and that's why banks are kind of shifting towards this flat rate cashback model. I think this example really illustrates that there's no real 1 to 5 ranking, so instead of doing that in this video, I'm going to break down 5 cards on how you actually live. If you want zero thinking, I'll show you the best setup. If you want to maximize every single dollar and you don't mind a bit more effort, I'll show you that as well. And if you just want the safest option that won't screw you, we'll cover that too. Let's start things off with the first archetype. They just want one card that just works, and if that's you, I think the best cashback card in Canada right now ends up being the Wealthsimple Visa Infinite. And yeah, I know, a flat 2% cashback sounds super boring compared to all those 5% headlines you see everywhere else, but here's why this card quietly embodies most cards in real life. A flat 2% on everything means you never miss. So on groceries, Uber, Amazon, flights, random stuff you bought at 1 a.m., there's no merchant coding anxiety. Like sometimes if you go into a Walmart and they code at 1x, you only get 1% back there, even though it's technically your grocery shopping for the week. You also then don't need to check any caps, you'll just get 2% back across the board. In my experience, what I've realized is most people don't lose money because they picked a bad card. In fact, there's many more good cards out there than there are truly poor ones. They lose money because they didn't use their card in the way it was really designed. Flat rate cards remove that user error, and removing user error is incredibly valuable. This card beats the category cards for anyone who has a lot of variable spending, someone who shops quite a bit online, doesn't really want to micromanage their spending every single month to see if they've hit the caps, or just wants consistency from month to month. Now let's address something everybody freaks out about. It's the annual fee. And on paper, it's $240, which is the highest for any Visa Infinite card in Canada. Here's the reality though. If you keep $100,000 invested with Wealthsimple, the fee is waived. And yes, I know not everybody has $100,000 in savings, but if you also direct deposit your paycheck, so over $4,000 a month, you also get that annual fee waived. This means for a lot of people who are already using Wealthsimple, this card is effectively free. And even if you do pay the fee, here's the math some people may avoid doing. At 2% cash back, you need to spend about $12,000 a year just to break even, which is $8,000 per month. If you're spending less than that, sure, I'd skip it, but if you're spending more, the card can certainly pay for itself. And here's another part that I didn't really mention yet, but I definitely get a lot of utility out of: the fact that this card has no foreign transaction fees, which is not just for travel, but it's for every single expense you make outside of Canadian dollars. Most cards would charge you about 2.5% on foreign transactions, so this card doesn't just give you 2% cash back, it quietly also saves you another 2.5%. That's effectively a 4.5% swing compared to most cashback cards when you spend in USD or other foreign currencies. So if you travel even once a year or buy something from online stores fairly regularly, that can matter quite a bit. Now, I'm not going to glaze this card too much. It's certainly not the best card if you're hyper disciplined, you're not spending over $8,000 a month, and you really actually enjoy optimizing your categories like myself up until like 1 or 2 months ago. In that case, you can probably be 2%, and I would look for a different card. Now, if you're the opposite type of person, you really love all these categories, and you spend heavily on groceries and gas, there is a different answer for you. That's where the boring cards stop winning, and these category cards really start printing cash back. If that's you, these category cashback cards can absolutely beat out these flat rate cards, but only if the caps really line up with what your reality is. And this is where most people screw it up. When banks advertise cashback cards, they have this high 5% cashback or something else just to serve as bait. The spending cap is really the hook though. Enough of this jibber jabber, let's talk about actual numbers. The Scotia Momentum Visa Infinite is one of the best structured family cashback cards out there. It's not because it's particularly aggressive, but I think it's actually quite realistic. Here's exactly how it works. You earn 4% cash back on groceries and recurring bills up to $25,000 per category per year. You also earn 2% cash back on gas, EV charging, transit, and food delivery up to another $25,000 per year. Everything else earns 1%, and once you pass those caps, you don't lose your rewards entirely, you just drop to 1%. That structure is why this card works quite well for households. The $25,000 annual cap on groceries and recurring bills is fairly generous. It's about $2,000 per month before you really start losing value. Most families never blow through that unless they're doing something a bit unusual, and because the cap is annual, not monthly, you're not punished for real life. If you have a big grocery run, it's fine because it's an annual cap. If you have some holidays and don't spend as much on groceries and don't maximize the cap, it's okay because once again, it is an annual cap. One expensive month doesn't just wreck your earn rate, and I think that's a real positive here. One subtle but actually pretty important thing with Scotia, the caps reset on your card anniversary, not the calendar year, which really matters if you're really planning large expenses or timing recurring payments. Speaking of recurring payments, Scotia is quite generous here. Utilities, streaming, gym membership, insurance, and sometimes even rent or condo fees if you use a third-party service. This is why this card quietly outperforms people with lots of fixed monthly bills. Another reason why this card fits families better than single is because the insurance package is really solid, and you don't really need to seek external insurance in most cases. You have trip cancellation, trip interruption, emergency medical, and you just need to charge 75% of the trip cost to your card. Final note on this card before we move on, the first year annual fee is rebated if you have the Scotia Preferred account, but if you have the Scotia Ultimate account, it's rebated forever. Now let's talk about the TD Cashback Visa Infinite, which is another great option here. You earn 3% cash back on grocery, gas, transit, recurring bills, and even streaming and digital media. The $15,000 annual cap once again applies per category and not combined. And when you exceed that $15,000 in that one category, like other cards, it just drops to 1% for the rest of the year. This does make TD more restricted than Scotia for high spending households. If your grocery spend alone pushes past $15,000 per year, you're capped much earlier. For families with a bit of a heavier spending bill on groceries, I think the Scotia card just beats it out. Overall, this archetype works best if your spending is really consistent, and most of your money goes to grocery, gas, and bills. If your spending is chaotic, or you shop online randomly, or you travel a lot, these cards do start leaking a bit of value. These cards are precision tools, not general purpose weapons. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, I could squeeze way more value out of this if I actually track my spending, that's where the highest upside card on this list lives. Unsurprisingly, it's also the easiest one to mess up. Archetype number 3 is I want maximum cash back and I'm really willing to work for it. This archetype is meant for a very specific type of person. You track your spending, you know your categories, you don't really mind checking your app quite frequently, and if that sounds exhausting, I would just tune this out now. For those still watching, the best card in this list is the Neo World Elite MasterCard. On paper, Neo looks ridiculous. You're earning elevated cashback on groceries, gas, and recurring bills, and on top of that, Neo stacks partner cashback on top of this base cashback. So you're not just getting these category rewards, you're getting a merchant-specific boost layered right on top. And if you optimize this correctly, you can outperform every single other cashback card in Canada, no debate. Here's where people get wrecked though. Neo's cashback is strong, but it's definitely not unlimited. Each high earning category has a monthly limit as opposed to an annual limit. Neo rewards really intentional spend, not chaos, meaning you can't really spend $2,000 on groceries with the World Elite card and expect to earn $140 in cash back. You'll stop earning that 5% back when you hit that $70 in cash back. The base Neo MasterCard caps grocery and gas at $500 in spend per year and $1,667 on everything else. The more premium World and World Elite MasterCards cap gas and groceries at $1,000 each, recurring bills at $500, but hold no cap on everything else. Now these cards are honestly fairly reasonable for living solo, but for families, this is probably not your best option. That means that every single month, you get a limited window where your spending earns at the top rate. And if you're not tracking it, you won't even notice it until your cashback looks really disappointing. Once again, Neo is incredible if you do 3 things well. First, you keep most of your spend inside these bonus categories. 2, you stay under the monthly caps, and 3, you actively use Neo's partner offers. Some super quick examples of these offers include Mario Brown's Chicken for 10%, Simon's for an extra 5%, Five Guys and Panera giving you again 10%, Adidas giving you 6%, and the list goes on and on. You won't really find a grocery store on here, but it's a great added bonus when you happen to stumble across one of their partners. So if you are just swiping your card randomly, this card will punish you, but if you're super intentional, it rewards you pretty aggressively. I would say this is even more of a precision tool as it really rewards you spending very precisely. And here's a mistake most people will end up making. They'll compare Neo's top earn rate to a flat 2% card and think Neo automatically wins. It doesn't. It only wins when it's sitting inside of those caps. Outside of those caps, a flat rate card quietly catches up and often actually passes it, which is why these smartest Neo setups actually include having a backup card. Neo for those optimized categories, and a flat cashback card for everything else. Neo's World Elite card has the highest potential cashback in Canada, but it also has the highest failure rate. Now if you want strong cashback, no annual fee, and you don't want to babysit your card every month, there's one option that punches way above its weight. This archetype is for people who want good cashback, but don't want to think about caps or annual fees and probably end up shopping at Costco. For those people, the Rogers Red World Elite MasterCard is likely the way to go. On the surface, it doesn't look super special. No flashy welcome bonus, no 5% headlines, no complicated stacking, but in practice, it solves 3 problems that I think most cashback cards really ignore. 1, it has no annual fee. 2, it earns strong cashback without caps that matter for most people. And 3, it actually works where people spend money, including Costco, because acceptance matters a lot. Here's how the math works. You earn 3% cashback on purchases made in US dollars, 2% cashback on Rogers, Fido, and shop purchases, and 1.5% everywhere else. There's no category juggling, no rotating nonsense, and because this is a MasterCard, it works at Costco, which already makes it more useful than a lot of the better cards out there. For people who don't want complexity, that 1.5% everywhere with no fee is quietly elite, especially on a MasterCard. The card really separates itself with 2 other things though. First is that 3% cashback on US dollar purchases, which is not just a gimmick. Most Canadian cards charge you about 2.5% back in foreign transaction fees, so when you're earning 3% cashback in USD, you're actually still netting out. It's not perfect, but compared to most no annual fee cards, it's one of the best ways to spend in USD without getting absolutely smoked. Costco is also a huge blind spot in most people's cashback setups. Visa category cards love to pretend that Costco just doesn't exist, but for a lot of households, Costco's groceries, gas, and random bulk spending all rolled into one. The Rogers card does not care, you swipe, you earn, and then you move on. And the simplicity is honestly worth more than 0.5% on paper. I would say this card is perfect if you want no annual fee, you shop at Costco, and you spend in USD sometimes, and finally if you don't want to track any of your caps. Not everyone watching this qualifies for a Visa Infinite or World Elite MasterCard. And honestly, not everyone should get one either. If you're earlier in your credit journey, or your income doesn't clear that premium threshold just yet, you still have solid cashback options. You just need to understand what they're actually meant to do. This archetype is more for building. And I think in it, the CIBC Dividend Visa, especially Platinum version, exists for a reason. The CIBC Dividend Visa exists for a reason. It gives you elevated cashbacks on the categories that matter most early on. Groceries and gas. You're not juggling 6 different bonus buckets, you're not tracking monthly caps across 5 categories, it's somewhat set it and forget it, and it's a pretty solid start. It does a few things super well. It rewards your essential spending, its income requirements are very reasonable, and third, it helps you build a clean credit profile without a lot of complexity, which I think is the first step to really getting into these deeper ends of cards. That matters more than a lot of people really admit. The worst thing you can do super early on is over-optimize and really screw up your usage or your payments. Simple cards are meant to reduce mistakes, and this card does a very good job at that. That being said, let's be honest about some of the limitations though. The caps on these higher cashback categories are lower than premium cards, and once you hit them, the earn rate drops to the base level, and that's fine. Because this card isn't meant to scale forever, it's meant to carry you through a phase of your life. It makes sense if you're building or rebuilding your credit, your income is under that premium threshold, and if you just want cashback without a lot of the mental overhead, or a very clean starter card, I would probably look in this direction. Once you do reach that next level, I would definitely upgrade to a Visa Infinite or a World Elite MasterCard, as this card is really much of a stepping stone, but I honestly don't think that's a bad thing. Alright, so I know we've covered quite a lot, so instead of repeating everything, I'm going to tell you what I would actually do in real life, not the internet optimized answer, just the setups that actually work month after month. Scenario 1 is zero thinking. If I wanted zero thinking, zero tracking, zero stress, I'd run one card, a flat rate card of some kind, something like the Wealthsimple Visa Infinite. Why? Because consistency beats complexity for most people. You'll never miss a category, you'll never blow past a cap without realizing it, you just spend and you get paid. Scenario 2 is strong returns without any babysitting. If I had a family, predictable bills, and a steady grocery and gas spend, I'd anchor my setup around a category card, something like the Scotiabank Momentum Visa Infinite. It rewards consistency, not perfection, and that's what real life looks like. Scenario 3 is maximizing cashback if you're really disciplined. If I wanted to actively push cashback to the ceiling, I'd run a 2-card setup. Neo for these optimized categories and partner spend, and then a flat rate card as a backup for everything else. That way I'm never punished for going over caps, and I'm squeezing value where it makes the most sense. That's how Neo is meant to be used. Alone, it's quite risky, but paired properly, it's pretty lethal. Scenario 4 is I don't want a fee and I shop at Costco. And if I wanted zero annual fees and real world acceptance, I'd stop overthinking it and just grab the Rogers Red World Elite. Costco works, any USD spend is rewarded, and there's no cap to track. It's not trying to impress anyone, it just quietly does its job. And if I was earlier in my credit journey, I'd grab something simple like the CIBC dividend. I'd build clean credit habits, and then upgrade to later once I'm ready to graduate. There's no prize for jumping into premium cards too early, as progression matters a lot more than just flexing. And honestly, finally, there's no universally best cashback card out there, and I hope you guys really understand that. There's only the card that matches how you actually spend money. Most people don't really need a better card, they just need better alignment. If you do want some help figuring out which setup actually fits your spending, feel free to send us an email, hit us up on Instagram, or even ask in the comments down below, and we'll do the best to point you in the right direction. That's it. Spend smart, don't get baited by percentages, and use the card that actually works with your real life, not against it.